Supervision saves lives. Most parents get supervision between kids and dogs wrong. Let me help you out with that.
And kids around dogs, we're gonna make it okay.
Hi, this is Abby Lacken. I'm a dog behaviorist, dog trainer, and founder of Kids Around Dogs. Something I feel very, very strongly about is supervision. That is because we see so many dog-related injuries or accidents and worse, fatalities as well. But these injuries, these accidents, these fatalities could be avoided. Now, as you know, we concentrate very much on speaking about kids and dogs. So supervision, when there is an interaction, any interactions between children and dogs, it's a must. Now, what is supervision? From the Cambridge Dictionary, the word supervision effectively means supervision is the act of watching, directing, or managing a person, activity, or process to ensure tasks are completed correctly, safely, and efficiently. It involves guidance, support, and monitoring a performance. It is a two-way process to help building skills and confidence. I think that is the key of everything, because not only by supervising, you as the parents, as the grown-up, as the carer, whatever, can make sure that the interaction between the child and the dog is safe. You should be literally physically between the dog and the child, especially if the child is a baby, a toddler, quite a young child. You should be physically between them because, especially when they're very young, children tend to do things that we might not expect. To them, it makes sense to, for example, say that they're a toddler and they are learning to stand up, and they're still very delicate when they start walking. And when that happens, when they stand up, they might need to hold on to something. It could be a piece of furniture, it could be the sofa, it could be a chair, it could be the dog. Indeed, they might use the dog as a way for them to get up, and they might hold on to their tail or their ears or their back, whatever part of the body. The child doesn't see a problem with that. Why should that be a problem? I don't know. I'm a little kid. I need to get up. I need to do my thing. I'm going to use whatever I need to use to get up. And if it is the dog, that interaction, that pulling of the ear to get up, that pulling of the tail, whatever, could be extremely annoying, even painful, and therefore the dog might react negatively. It might not do it immediately. It might not do it that first time or that second time even. But if it becomes something that has happened before and the dog doesn't like it, at one point, the dog might turn around and go, "I've had enough, kiddo." The child doesn't know that it's wrong. The dog doesn't understand that it's wrong as well. It just protects himself, and that's fair enough. When we also talk about supervision, I think it's really, really important to make a proper distinction. So I mentioned before the fact that a grown-up should be between the child and the dog, especially when the kids are very small. I would like to point out that different stages of life of children also require different level of supervision in a way. When you have an infant or a baby that is between being born to about 1 year of age, you should really be present between the kids and the dog, between the baby and the dog, between the infant and the dog. So you will be holding the baby and the dog will be on the side of you or whatever. When we are dealing with toddlers, that is between 1 to 3 years of age, you want to make sure to have at least one arm kind of between the dog and the child so that you can control the interaction and still keep it safe. When you're dealing with preschoolers or school kids, roughly from the age of 4 to the age of 10, you still need to actively supervise. Even if you think, oh, they're a bit older now, it's still an essential part during that kind of stage of life. It's a phase of life where children might take some liberties around dogs. They might feel more confident. They might, if you even like push some boundaries, you like, then that could create potential problems and misunderstandings between children and dogs. So we still need to be present mentally and physically. When we have preteens and teens, from 11 plus, basically. Normally, children can be a bit more trusted at this stage of life, but it's still really important to teach the children to respect dogs, to understand the body language of dogs, and to make sure that they know not to push the dog or to stress the dog in any ways. What happens when there are different kind of interactions? So it's not just kind of sitting there, but they might be training together, which is really, really cool. Children are awesome trainers, so I highly recommend for kids to get involved in training the dog. What happens when the situation is like that, when there is a physical movement and interaction, going for a walk together, playing with the dog? It's not just kind of being there, right? So what happens then? You still having to be present. So it's not like if the child is old enough, for example, if the child is capable of training the dog, that you just go, oh, that's all right, they're fine, I can just go and have a cup of tea. So we need to make sure that we are with them effectively, paying attention, listening, observing, knowing what it's actually going on. Is the dog happy with that interaction? Because even if the dog is responding to some training or some playing or everything, it doesn't mean that the situation is completely under control. What if the play is too much for the dog? What is if the dog gets too excited, too aroused with the play, and accidentally scratches the child, for example, or start jumping up at the kid because of the excitement? That interaction suddenly can become something potentially dangerous. So we really need to be very mindful of everything. And by being mindful really means being present. Be there, body and soul. There are effectively two main ways of supervising. There is active supervision and passive supervision. Let's go for the passive supervision first, because it's the one I don't want you to have, effectively. I want you to know about passive supervision, but I really hope you don't use it, and I don't want you to. So passive supervision is effectively when you might be there, physically in person in the room with the child and the dog, but you're doing something else. You might be on your phone scrolling, as we all do, social media. You might be making a phone call. You might reply to a message. You might even be taking a video of the interaction between the kids and dogs. We've all done it. I've done it too. You might be watching this video right now. Those are all distractions from being with the child and being with the dog. Reading a book, for example, watching TV. What if you have visitors and you're chatting to the person that is visiting you? You are effectively distracted by that interaction you're having with your friends that is visiting, your family, whoever that is, because you're talking to them. You are into that conversation. So you are physically present in the room. You might be even looking at the kid and the dog, but your brain is doing something else. So you're not effectively, actively supervising the interaction. What about cooking? That is something else. So even just making yourself a cup of tea. How many times have I heard a parent telling me, oh, but I was just making dinner. I was there. I was in the kitchen. The kid was there. The dog was there. And yet something happened. Or I was just making myself a cup of tea. And again, that distraction, that putting the tea bag in the mug, that is still a distraction. I'm sorry, but you're not paying attention. I had a parent telling me, but that means I would have to be with them all the time. I would have to pay attention to them all the time. Yes, that's exactly it. You need to be paying attention to them all the time if they're together. However, it's impossible, right, to really be with them constantly, 24/7, making sure they're okay and safe and all that. So if you need to go to the toilet, if you want to read a book, and good luck with that when you have kids, if you need to make dinner, if you need to vacuum the living room, whatever you need to do that does not allow you to fully watch your kid and your dog interaction, or kid and dog in the same room, even if they're not interacting, but they are in the same room, they are free as well to eventually get in contact with each other, then you can't do anything else but be completely fully there. So if you have to do something else, perfectly fine. you can either take your child with you and get them to help you out with your chores. Again, good luck with that one. Maybe when they're little, because I remember my little one, well, not so little now, but when she was little, she used to want to help. So, but either take the kid and get them to come with you and do it, whatever it is that you have to do with the child, and make sure that you are keeping on a conversation with them, because sometimes the dog just follows, or bring the dog and leave the child, whichever, right? The other option, which is probably the safest, is to make sure that if you're leaving, say, the dog behind, then the dog should be somewhere where the child cannot go without you. So if you're using a playpen, for example, that's perfectly fine, but you need to make sure that the child cannot go there and maybe put their hands through the bars of the playpen, that the playpen is high enough for the dog not to jump over it without you knowing this. Train the dog to know that he's safe and happy and every good thing happen when he's in the playpen. Give them something to do, like a puzzle, a West Paw toy, for example, or a canine connectable, something like that, where the dog is interacting with that toys, with that puzzle, with that form of enrichment. So it'd be too busy to try to come with you or feeling a bit left out. The other option for the dog is to have a room where the dog can be in, where there is a door that can be closed and even locked. That's because if you teach your dog that every now and then he will have to go in that room, and it shouldn't be used as you're going to stay here hours on end. That's not what it's about. It's just when you're busy, when you got your stuff to do, or at night as well, have the dog, staying in that room. Lovely and comfortable spaces for him to sleep, like a nice bed. Make sure he's got water. That there are some toys for him to play. Don't exaggerate with the amount of toy that you leave him behind, and make sure as well that they're toys that are safe to be left with the dog unattended. Could be, again, another form of enrichment, for example, so the dog can do something maybe before taking a nap or whatever. I mentioned making sure that that room that you're picking, that you're choosing, that you have available, has a door, and that door can be closed and locked. That's because children and some dogs can also open doors, especially when the children are a bit older, but even the little ones are very clever that way. So there are a couple of things you can do. You can lock the door, that way there is no risk for the dogs and the child to open the door and then be in contact with each other without you knowing. But there are also some quite special child lock for the handle of the door. I'm going to put the Amazon link in the description so you can find this item as well. That way the child cannot open the door, the dog cannot open the door, but you as a grown-up can work that one out and open it again. So you can free the dog and then the dog is happy. But again, everything is safe, and you can, I don't know, make dinner, read a book, watch TV, whatever you want to do without the worry there. Again, please make sure that this room or the playpen is not overused. You don't want the dog to just live there, because that's not what this is about. This is just so the dog is safe there, or at night as well. If the dog sleeps somewhere that is not with you, then this space would be ideal. On that as well, nighttime can be a bit tricky, but I'll get there in a minute. I know a lot of people use crates. Personally, I'm not a big fan of crates. The first reason is because I feel the dog is very restricted in the space that they have. So if I were to have a crate, I would want to make sure it's really, really big. Which can also be then a bit problematic in most homes. The second reason is with children and crate, it's not always ideal. That's because you give yourself, the child, and other people that might be visiting you a false sense of security, in the sense that they might go to the dog, to the crate, to the dog that is in the crate, and might talk to the dog, they might throw stuff in there, they might want to put their fingers through the bars and all that. And that can be very stressful for the dog. It can be very unfair. It can make the dog upset, angry, worried, scared, and he can't run away. He can't defend himself. He's just stuck in there. So the second and then is let free, there might be some hate toward the kids in a way, because they've been teasing him the whole time, or other people as well. So it might not be ideal. So if you want to use a crate, I'm not completely against it, but I would put the crate like inside the playpen. The crate then can be open, and there is then a playpen around it. In that case, a bit different. Then it's the dog that chooses whether uh, she wants to be in the crate or out of the crate. Then it's completely um, the, up to the dog to see what they fancy doing. I mentioned bedtime earlier because a lot of people like sleeping with their dogs. And I tell you, when we had Pixel, I loved sleeping with Pixel. I would just, in fact, when he passed for a long time, I couldn't sleep, not only because I just missed him all the time. I was like quite bad state, but I missed him during the night, that little snoring, that, his curled up warmth. I really missed that. And unfortunately, Wilco never really liked sleeping with us. Winnie was so fidgety. She just doesn't do well on sleeping on a bed. She gets too hot. She wants to get down. Then she wants to come up. Then she wants to go down again. What a stress. So we could not. Winnie's not happy to sleep on the bed, basically. She stayed a little bit and then she has to get off. It didn't work out that way. So I really, really miss sleeping with the dog. However, having said that, when you have small children, that is something that might need to be reviewed, sleeping with the dog, simply because whoever has kids know that sometimes they don't sleep through the night. And when they don't sleep through the night, they have to come to you and tell you all about whatever it is that is troubling them. Or they call you to them for the same reason. I don't know how many times I woke up myself with my child staring at me in the dark. I think I had several heart attacks because I thought that was a ghost. No, it was Molly being up in the night and just staring at me from the side of the bed. I don't know why he wouldn't go to get it. This freak him out during the night. No, it's only mommy. So, but that's the thing. So when that happens, you can imagine that if it happens to me, I get all like scared and everything. But I'm not gonna bite my kid. I'm not gonna scratch her. I'm not gonna bark at her. I might say, "Oh my gosh," and that's about it. But if it happens to the dog, the reaction of the dog could be very different, and also logical from a dog point of view. They might react negatively. They might bite. They might, lunge. Whatever it is that they feel they should do to defend themselves from the ghost of the child. It's not very nice. Not very nice. So nighttime can be very tricky, and the other reason as well is that you are sleeping. So what if the child wakes up during the night and goes, "I really want to go and see the dog. I can't sleep now. I had a bad dream. I really want to go and see the dog." And they get up and come to your room and the dog's there. Again, things can go wrong. You're sleeping. What do you know? That is very, very much in the passive supervision category. You are, yes, you're there in body for sure, but you're out. So you might as well not be there. And now I really, really want to concentrate all our effort in knowing what active supervision is. Active supervision is when you're physically in the space with the child and the dog, and when you're mentally in the space with the child and the dog. That means you are interacting with them both. You're observing how is the dog taking certain interactions, what kind of interactions the child has with the dog. Does the child know how to be around dogs? Not all children act the same around dogs. So some children might be a little bit too overconfident and do silly things around dogs. Some children will not. They just, keep to themselves, kind of thing. Quite unlikely to do that all the time, especially if they live together. But again, I'm not saying that every child is the same. But what I am saying is that you still having to supervise actively and be there physically and mentally, even when you think, "Oh, my child is very calm. Oh, my dog would never do that." We can never say never, really can't. Whether it's about dogs, it's about people, it doesn't matter. You can never, ever say never. What you want to observe, as I mentioned before, is how the children interact with the dog. If the child starts off calmly but gets a little bit excited, then go back to that calm state. Maybe praise that calm state. It's really good that the kid has a calm way of handling the dog, or rather than handling, playing or interacting with the dog. If they are playing a good game, an enrichment game, a safe game, maybe with a long tug, for example, again, praise that, encourage that. And when you praise the child, make sure that the praises are specific. So just say, oh, nice play. It's just not enough. What is about that play that is nice? So, for example, if I were to see a child playing with a tug toy with the dog, the tug toy is normally like a long tug, like a Tug-e-nuff, for example, where the child would hold the handle part of the toy and the dog is messing about with the end part of the toy, normally fluffy or a ball or whatever. And the dog gets a bit too excited and the child lets go of the tug toy because he realizes that the dog is gotten a bit strong. I can't deal with this, so I'm not going to force it. I'm just going to let go. I would highly praise that. I would say, oh, did you realize that the dog was going a little crazy? And is it why you let it go or you let the toy go? See what the child says. Why did he let it go? And I say, oh my God, that was really good. I should do that next time. Oh, I want to do it too. Or if I have just showed to do that and the child did it, I'm like, oh my God, you really followed what I said. Oh, you completely understood what I said. Well done. Or that was a great way of playing with the doggy. Be specific, right? Because if you are specific, not only the praise has more value, it's not just a generic thing, but then the child really understands what they did right and he's going to do it again. In fact, when we highlight things, those are the things that kind of stick more in our minds. And that is the same for children. If you highlight something that they do wrong, they are not going to, they'll understand or they'll know, okay, that was the wrong thing to do. What can I do then? What should I do instead? That is what the brain might be wondering. And if we don't mention that thing, the brain simply won't know where to go. So next time they'll play, he's gonna do the same wrong thing that he did before. So by highlighting and pointing out and praising the correct interaction, then that's what the brain will remember and it'll go back to that interaction because it was a good one, because it was a positive one, and mommy, daddy, whoever praised me for it, so I did well. Sometimes though, the child simply doesn't know what to do, and that's why they need our guidance. They need us to show them how to do things. Children mirror us all the time, so if you're messing around with the dog, the child will think it's right thing to do and they will be messing around with the dog. Demo safe interaction, positive interaction, so that the child can then copy those. When the child and dogs are together, again, whether they are interacting or not, but you need to be there physically and mentally present. If there is any chance of showing a positive thing, a positive interaction, or just even leaving the dog alone, that is also a positive interaction or a really good thing to teach the kids. If the dog is asleep and you go and annoy the dog, you're the first one to teach a child not, something wrong to do. Even if it's bedtime and you go, right, I need to wake up the dog because it's time to go to bed, I'm not going to physically go and wake up the dog. I'll stand up and go, come on, doggy, we need to go. And, get the dog to follow me. So I'm not going to go there physically to where the dog is asleep. And even if the dog is asleep right next to me, I'm not gonna, push him or anything to wake him up. I literally just say, come on, doggy, it's time to go for a walk, or it's time to go for a wee, or whatever it is I need to do that will that I need the dog for. Keep in mind, active supervision is your best friend. If you can't supervise, then keep children and dogs separate. It really isn't worth the risk of anything happening, and really does take a second for things to go wrong. And sometimes as well, when we think, oh, I'm just going to open the door to the postman or whatever, just going to put the kettle on, those are really precious minutes that we don't realize they're passing by, and we don't know what's happening between the dogs and the kids while we're not there. So please, please, please supervise, actively supervise all interaction and all situations where children and dogs are involved. Thank you very much for watching. If you like these videos or if you want any more information about interactions or non-interactions between children and dogs, anything to do with kids and dogs, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, CAD Kids Around Dogs. And you can also follow us on Instagram and Facebook, and spread the word. Tell your friends and family about Kids Around Dogs. We really, really want to make sure that children and dogs can have that wonderful life together. Thank you. Bye.
Kids around dogs, we're gonna make it okay.